Welcome to the We Are Rise Show. I'm your host, Brett C. Collins. It's Friday night. How we doing out there? Let's go! Come on! How's everybody doing out there? It's a great, glorious Friday. A little warm and humid today. I was very surprised. I hate this intemperate weather. It's warm one day, piss warm. It's cold another. Can it just be cool for like 4 months and enjoy it? That's why I get sick and my allergies are always bothering me. Let's welcome my co-host, Marshall Smith. What's up? You like my American flag shaped out of a phoenix that I have?
I like that. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah, I've been designing these things on this AI generate that they have on StreamYard. It's pretty cool, and they let me do a lot of stuff, and I really like a lot of this stuff. This one's great too. That one's good. This one has We Are Rise, but I really like this with the American flag. So what's up, man? How you doing? Welcome in.
I'm doing good, man.
Yeah.
Hope everybody else is jamming out because things are happening.
Oh, things are moving. Welcome in, pill.net. Hello, Rumble. Yeah, I saw you, Mountain Ninja. You are correct about that. I cannot share Rumble anymore on Truth for some reason. If I do it on my phone, it doesn't work. So anytime I share or copy link to paste it there, you are correct. I can only do YouTube and I can only do pill.net. Very odd indeed. Everything else works at other places. It works on X, works on Telegram, works all over the place. So I think you are correct. So yeah, we'll see. So tonight's show, Trump's Hemisphere hammer. We'll get into the national strategic strategy that's, all over the place. Trump's new Trump doctrine. It's a cornucopia of the Trump colliery, which is basically an extension of the Monroe Doctrine. We'll cover that and the new plan to protect the Western Hemisphere. This is really good. Bail bonds bomber. Yeah, I didn't get to cover this yesterday with all this stuff. I got some interesting thoughts about this. Texas Fold'em. What do I say about that? Because the Supreme Court says, no. You're allowed to what? Redistrict and get 5 more seats. It's fantastic. And truth or grift. I think I'd rather put it conspiracy, the conspiracist versus the machine, because we'll cover a little bit of I didn't want to cover this, just a small sliver what's taking place between TPUSA and Candace, which I think really, honestly, it saddens me, and I'm at this point, I don't really care anymore. I have a very slanted view about both these sides, both these, let's just say, people, and I think there's so many other things to focus on that matter at this time, Marshall. I really do, and I want to get into it right now. What's your thoughts? So like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold pill, comments, questions, concerns. Hit the bell to be notified. You can help us out on Rumble as well. You can drop us a Rumble rant. Please subscribe to the platform. We are on YouTube. So if you want to go over to YouTube as well, please subscribe. Leave us a comment. Let me know what you think about there. Just trying to build up the platform there as well. We're not monetized. If you want to call in tonight, I dropped the actual StreamYard links. All you have to do is send it back to yourself, paste it, and then come back on. It's not that hard to do. It's very easy in some way. So as we move forward in tonight's show, defense news, I'm going to come at you with this because we're going to talk about these things in general. I want to get this in some way. Trump's national security strategy slams European allies. This is part of what Trump's new Monroe Doctrine came out. I think it didn't get enough attention today. I saw other platforms covering the coup and January 6th and the extension about that, which we'll get to. But I thought this was important because I don't think people understand what this is. The Trump colliery of 2025, his new Monroe Doctrine. President Trump's administration set forth a new national security strategy that paints European allies as weak and aims to reassert America's dominance in the Western Hemisphere. The document released Friday by the White House is sure to roil longstanding U.S. allies in Europe for its scathing critiques for their migration and free speech policies. UK, many countries right now, you see right now that European Union is suing X for $140 million because of the free speech platform. This is the problem we have, and President Trump should use the Grant Act to go after them and sue them. But this is the problem we're facing because Europe is weak, Europe is feckless, and we got to clean up their mess. We have to wipe their ass because you know what? There's no more toilet paper left because all these people don't use toilet paper anymore. It's become a very uncivilized, disgusting cesspool. That's what Europe is. Many of these countries, and the UK right now, man, it is crumbling. It is crumbling. Prospects civilizational erasure. That's the point here, suggesting that they may face some epic, let's just say, destruction and downfall, raising the doubts about their long-term reliability as American partners. I agree with that. Things are shifting. It reinforces in something chilling and bellicose terms Trump's America First philosophy, which favors non-intervention overseas questions, decades of strategic relationships, and prioritizes U.S. interests above all. The U.S. strategy is motivated above all by what works for America, or in 2 words, America First, the document said. I'm not going to continue on because I have a whole breakdown, Marshall. What is your thought about this?
Yeah, we've been talking about this off and on over the past year, that we are finally breaking free from the British Empire, which is basically heavily connected with that country in the Middle East. They're heavily connected. They're very strongly tied. One probably controls the other to a degree. We're finally getting away from that, and we're looking out for ourselves. We're covering our territory, which is the southern hemisphere where we're at. So good for Trump. Good on Trump, man.
Yeah, he wants to realign the Western Hemisphere. I'm going to break all this down. I'm going to show you Politico. I'm going to show you a couple of things from X, and then I'm going to get into a diatribe on this so people understand what is taking place. So, U.S. Donald Trump administration revealed its global security priorities in a new document. This is Trump's, let's just say, reset of the world in some way. The way the United States will reset its allies and its enemies and its posturing towards what we see is beneficial to us and what we see as a liability and a danger to us. President Trump intends the U.S. to keep a bigger military presence in the Western Hemisphere going forward to battle migration, drugs, the rise of adversarial powers in the region, according to his new national security strategy. Do you notice that the first thing he said is the migration problem we have throughout the world? Drugs and the rise of adversary powers. New powers are in play. The 33-page document is a rare formal explanation of Trump's formal foreign policy, worldview, by his administration. Such strategies, which presents typically release one each term, can help shape how parts of the United States government allocates budgets and set policy priorities. The national security strategy, which the White House quietly released Thursday, has some brutal words for Europe, suggesting it is in a civilization decline. Yes, I think we all agree about that. Pays relatively little attention to the Middle East and Africa. It has an unusually heavy focus on the Western Hemisphere, and it casts it largely about protecting U.S. homeland. It says border security is the primary element of national security, and it makes veiled references to China's efforts to gain foothold in America's backyard. As I covered many times about its access in Venezuela and many other regions in Latin America, the United States must be the preeminent in the Western Hemisphere as the condition for our security and prosperity, a condition that allows us to assert ourselves confidentially where and when we need it to be in the region. The document states the terms of our alliances and the terms upon which they provide any kind of aid must be contingent on winding down adversarial outside influence from control of military installations. Think of Panama Canal. Think of Greenland, ports, key infrastructures to the purchase of strategic assets broadly defined. The document describes such plans as a part of the Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. The latter is the notion set forth by President James Monroe in 1823. The U.S. will not tolerate malign foreign interference in its own hemisphere. Trump's paper, as well as his partner document known as the National Defense Strategy, has faced delays in part because of the debates in the administration over elements related to China. Treasury Secretary Bissett wanted to push for more softening language about Beijing, according to 2 people familiar with this matter, who granted anonymity to describe the internal deliberations. Bissett is currently involved in sensitive U.S. trade talks with China, and Trump himself is weary of the delicate relations with Beijing. Interesting. The new national security strategy says the U.S. has to make a challenging choice in the global realm. After the end of the Cold War, American foreign policy elites convinced themselves that permanent American domination of the entire world was the best interest. No, it's not. Yet the affairs of other countries are our concern only if their activities directly threaten our interest, the document states. I'm not going to get into this too much. It's lengthy. It's winding. You can go read the Political yourself. I'm not going to drop it in there. You can find it. I have a whole thing about this. Marshall, your thoughts about this?
No, I think what he is doing is right on. It's
Hmm.
what should have been done. The only reason it's never been done before, Brett, is because they make all this money, billions and billions of dollars just flows through all kinds of coffers into back pockets of people, and that's what it's all about. They do the wars, they do the criminal activities, the human smuggling, all of it. And Trump is ending that, and they don't like it because
Yes.
it's shutting down their money feed. Their
Hmm.
business model is being destroyed by Trump. Thank God. Now we can finally do what our founders wanted us to do from the beginning, and that is build our country, make it a great place.
In the form of real isolationism, it's not really that we should be the global cop around the world. It's failed. We cannot do it. We're bankrupt. We've been forced into
Yeah,
this trillions of dollars of debt because it was been stolen. We've been invaded. We're not conquered, not yet. And I do believe in some way when you look at the rest of Europe, France, the Great Britain, other countries, Germany, they're in deep trouble. They really are in deep trouble. The European Union is the problem. And I think in some way, things have to change. Oh, my goodness. Along, Mom, when I was younger, my German aunt would cut up the gossip magazines for their TP. There's an inside joke in my family about this. Ask me sometime. Okay, I will. But yes, I'm making the point is that there's so much resources. There's so much rationale going into the civilized world. Okay. When you're letting mongrels in, when you're letting heathens in, when you're letting people in that are uncultured, all right, that are uncivilized, all right, that don't want to what? In any way, and I'm going to explain this to you real quickly, in any way want to capitulate to the norms, assimilate in some way. They don't want to do it. This is something I got from altmarket.us, and I'll drop it later in the chat, but I'm going to paraphrase here. Tolerance often unappreciated because it's not a virtue for any other culture. The third world of hell sees tolerance as weakness and an opportunity. Think about that. For many foreign, illegal, and immoral social belief systems, from Judaism to Hinduism to Islam, carry an ancient code of tribalism, an inside or outside mentality of supremacy, which is admonished in modern Western thought, but tolerated in and by immigrants. That comes from altmarket.us. That's a paraphrase from Brendan Smith. I think that's a clear summation of what we're dealing and what President Trump is trying to outlay here. Trump's national security strategy was just released. It officially establishes the Western Hemisphere as America's #1 foreign policy priority. Just look at here. I'm just going to go through this. I'll blow this up, and I'm just going to get into this if you can read this. It says readjustment of our global military presence to address urgent threats in our hemisphere, especially the missions identified in the strategy, and away from theaters whose relative import to American national security has declined. Think about that over the years. A more subtle Coast Guard and Navy presence to control sea lanes, to thwart illegal and other unwanted migration, to reduce human and drug trafficking, and to control key transit routes in crisis. Think about that. The Arctic and what we're talking about with Canada. Targeted deployments to secure the border and defeat cartels, including where necessary, the use of lethal force to replace failed law enforcement. Only strategy of the last several decades, and establishing or expanding access strategically in important locations. A very good oversimplification as this was outlined. I got more to go on it, Marshall. This is a main feature of this. I think he is realigning, not just retooling in some way the doctrine. The Trump colorary is a proposition that has already been approved that follows through on the Monroe Doctrine with severe consequences. That's what's being put forth. If anybody understands what I'm talking about, we can now see right now they're moving forward with this in some way. Your thoughts before I go into this?
You know, when you mentioned the tolerance thing, there's a movie back a few years back about the old days, queens and kings, and the queen or some woman of that nature says tolerance is another term for weakness.
Right.
And it's in some way, in some fashion, she says it just like that, and it's true. Tolerance is, look, it's just like empathy. We talk about empathy. Well, empathy is not the same as compassion.
Right.
They're two different things. Compassion is caring about somebody that can help themselves and you can help them get there. But empathy is just saying, we don't care if you're evil or bad. but just go ahead because we feel bad for you. That's
Right.
empathy.
Right. And we
So
step over our moral code, all right, because we feel in some way that we have no choice in this matter, even though we probably are reluctant to do so, but we fall into that trap. And what we do is we fall into the pitfalls of allowing ourselves to be murdered, raped, and tortured and
right,
killed later on because for some reason we were forced into this scenario, this nightmare that we're living. Continental Europe has been losing a share of global GDP, down 25% from 1990 to 14% today, partly owing to national and transnational regulations that undermine creativity. That's the World Bank, that's the London Bank. But the economic decline is eclipsed by the real and more stark prospect of civilization erasure. Should present trends to continue, the continent will be unrecognizable in 20 years. So while President Trump is trying to save America, he's helping redefine a narrative in some way to suggest that, hey, look, the EU has to get on board with this. They have to come to this table of understanding is that if they don't fix their problems, especially the Brits, because they're going to have let's just say a new election soon. If they don't fix their problem, they're done. And it's going to take more than just leadership, proxy leadership, parliamentary leadership. They're going to have to get out from the Bank of London. That's what's controlling them. That monetary system, it's not MI5, MI6, all these intelligence out. It's their own demise dealing with the Bank of London. They have to be able to push back and say, look, we need to remove these people. If they're a problem, they're not working. We can no longer afford to take care of them. We can't even afford to help our own people. But let me just give you a new alignment. I'll give it to you brief and stuff. The original Monroe Doctrine declared America off limits to European colonization or interference, establishing in the Western Hemisphere as a U.S. sphere of influence, 1823. Trump has long admired the framework, viewing it as a model for unilateral U.S. power in terms he referenced it rhetorically, but in his second term, actions mark as a formal operation. Anti-globalist. Globalism rejects globalist institutions, UN, WTO, in favor of bilateral deals. How many people think the UN's going to go away? It criticizes Europe for undermining peace in Ukraine and subverting democracy while escalating confrontation with China and over the trade ripoffs and military buildup. The posture for military is a rapid response tactic, including threats to reclaim, reasset, like Panama Canal and Greenland to counter China. This is the echoes of Roosevelt's Colliery, but with modern threats like satellite warfare. If this is the provision, homeland as the top priority, the White House proclamation on December 2nd this year. Today, my administration proudly reaffirms this promise under a new Trump Colliery, which is basically in lines with the Monroe Doctrine. The NSS excerpt that comes out here, the Trump Colliery to the Monroe Doctrine, integrating it into broader goals like tariff-driven economics and mineral access to remove what? Remove the tariff scenario that is basically undercutting us, which is taxes. All right. What happens when you get rid of the IRS? When happens you get property taxes? When you get rid of the taxes, what happens? It's getting rid of the Fed. That is the key. That's the ultimate go here. Supporters groups like the Texas Public Primary Policy Foundation praises it as a timely response to China's predatory mercantilism and military threats in the hemisphere, arguing it deters conflict by securing choke points like Panama and Greenland. Yes. All right. The argument that right now is that people are concerned on how this China scenario is going to be operating from like gunboat diplomacy or a redux of highlighting risks from military coercion, sanctions, bounties, and on foreign leaders. So the point is and stuff, they're worried about the Monroe Doctrine using as some type of like ad hoc or just shoot at the hip type of scenario going forward. And I think that's what they want to do. I mean, when they look at it as a threat in our southern hemisphere, like in what's going on in Colombia, what's going on in Latin America, Venezuela, you name it, Cuba in general, the Caribbean, whatever you want to say about all of it, all right, if there's any sphere of influence in there that we feel is a vital threat against the United States, that's why President Trump pardoned the Honduran president. They want to have real elections. They want to get rid of the Smartmatic. They want to get rid of the corruption that they have there. They want to make sure that these countries, okay, can exist on their own, all right, by helping them out. When you give Argentina a $20 billion loan, all all right, and you're charging them interest, all right, to pay back that loan. That's not free for all. They have to pay that back with interest, and we'll make money on top of that, all right? We're helping them prop up their government in some way so they can get out of their own debt scenario. We're probably going to be doing it for all these other countries as well, as long as we clean out the nest and the vipers, all right, of the evil influence of this communism. And it's even more than communism. I mean, when you really look at what it is, it's narco trafficking, all this other stuff. The dark elements inside South America have to be gutted and clean in order for us to move forward and making sure that they're safe in those areas. Mexico is a prime example of how bad a crime-ridden narco state that is basically operating through their president, and it's giving the green light to go forward with it. Whether she's scared or not, she's taking the money, the bribes. Half their government is corrupt anyway. That government's going to fall. The problem is we have to make sure that we could stabilize the region before all hell breaks loose. And that's the key of understanding about what we're doing here. It's not like we're going in and just uprooting all the criminal terrorists, which we are. I think the problem is that you have to look at is that you have to do it gingerly and delicately because you don't want the governments to collapse. This is the whole thing with Maduro. Maduro is illegitimate. He hasn't won an election in how many years? But he's there. He's propped up. You got the chief of station, probably in Caracas, that was operating with the CIA and many other people from the embassy. We don't know what's involved. We've seen this movie over and over again. We don't know how long this has been going on. You don't know how many transnational corporations. There could be elements of black hat, white hat, CIA operatives in there that have gone rogue. We don't know what the battle is inside. If we don't fix the problem we have now, it's over. And that's the only way we could solidify North America, because the hemisphere that we're dealing with right now is dangerous to us, volatile. You don't want someone parking missiles like they did back in the 60s in Cuba, very close to us, in Mexico, in Venezuela, in the Caribbean, in Puerto Rico. These areas are tenuous and it's rife with fraud. So we have to be very careful as we move forward. This was an excellent, I think, discussion about how President Trump is viewing the world and resetting the table, all right, so to speak. And there's only so many seats at the table, ladies and gentlemen. There's so many seats. He is forewarning. He's giving them. If I'm looking at Europe right now, I'm like, dude, we need to pull some of these nuclear missiles out of there. We have to realign, maybe pull some of our bases back there. If they don't get this fixed, because he says he wants to focus on the Western Hemisphere very sincerely, that he's like, we need to help them. How are we going to help them remove all this rot that's in there when the governments are corrupt? We have to make sure that the banking system, the Federal Reserves that are all set up in these city-state fiefdoms, these nation-states, have to come collapsing down. That's what funds all this terrorism. That's what funds all this migration. That's what funds their own eventual demise. And it seems like it's done on purpose. And we all know that everybody's taking bribes left and right. I think the Macron government's going to fall. I think he's in deep trouble. I think what we're seeing right now with Starmer, the new government that's going to come into Great Britain, I think will be something resounding and helpful, will be a bellicose voice in the air about helping us working again in unity. Nigel Farage, if he becomes the prime minister, it's going to probably, it will be the single best thing that happened to them since Brexit, but they have to bring down the Bank of London.
Yeah, there's a reason this carrier group, it's not just there for Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
It's there for this whole southern region here. And when you've got Bukele over in, El Salvador,
Yeah.
and now Honduras is secured, and then hopefully we get to Venezuela, then we've created some anchors in this southern Caribbean and Central America where we can move forward, because you've got Mexico and Brazil, which are, basically communist or whatever. And we've got to deal with that.
Yes.
We've got to secure this whole area where we're at, our backyard. So I believe that's one of the main reasons, really, why this carrier battle group is down there. It's not just Venezuela. It's
Colombia. It's Brazil.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a good swath of the major regions there that are all controlled by some transnational or secret clandestine operations of narco-terrorism and cartels that have overtaken the governments. and have used and weaponized the militaries of those governments in some way, where they were trading weapons to build up their military inventory, where they were using this in some way as facilitators to let these operations run wild while they all make kickbacks and deals on the side. It doesn't matter. Maduro will surrender, but this is not just about Maduro. It is not. Think about Colombia. All right. And we all forget about Colombia and Medellin and Pablo Escobar and what's been going on there for a millennia, for what we can imagine, for the last 40 years. Nothing is changing in America. All right. This all has to come to an end. President Trump is trying to put an end to this narco trafficking, so to speak. And the idea, we'll get to Hexit and all the follies with all that stuff, but let's get into the pipe honor. Who's over here tonight? Oh, thank you, Thea, for the cookie. Cookies and milk. Par 5, get the cookie. Happy Friday night. You guys looking forward to another awesome show. Thank you so much. Thank you, Thea, for the 700 gold pills. Yes, like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold pill, comments, questions, concern. You can help out Marshall, ko-fi.com/surfdog74. Say what? Suspected pipe bomber told the FBI he was a Trump supporter. That's the narrative they're running. Believe that the 2020 election was stolen. Now, I believe he went to court today. He came out. I don't know if he pled guilty. I don't know about this attorney that he has. Apparently, this attorney, the law firm, has connections with Pam Bondi. It's real interesting. Report by MSN Now, formerly MSNBC, has claimed the FBI officials who are familiar with the ongoing interrogations of the DNC pipe bomber stated the suspect shared with the agents that he was a Trump supporter and did believe the 2020 election was stolen. Okay, well, that's the narrative that's being painted. That's the stuff that's being put out. Early reports revealed Brian Cole Jr.'s father is the owner of a bond company that was represented by George Floyd lawyer Ben Crump in a racial discrimination case. Wow, how interesting. 6 degrees of separation here? I think not. Hours before January 6th in the U.S. Capitol, someone placed the pipe bombs outside the RNC DNC in D.C. That led to a 5-year manhunt. Federal agents arrested a suspect Thursday morning, Brian Cole. There's no shortage of questions. Yep, we understand that. All right, I'm going to move forward. I got so much more. Ben Crump, a nationally known attorney who specializes in racial discrimination cases, represented Brian Cole Sr. in late 2021 when the sale of Tennessee bond business he owned was being blocked by a local prosecutor. Crump and Cole Sr. claimed the prosecutor, Rutherford County Assistant District Attorney John Zimmerman, was blocking the sale because its owners were black. Crump and Cole Sr. claimed the prosecutor, District Attorney Zimmerman, was blocking this. Ben Crump law represented Brian Cole Sr. in late 21 in a racial discrimination matter. That's what they're trying to make this into. Free at last bail bonding. Crump's office told the Post. The engagement lasted less than a month. All right, moving on. I got more of this, but that's the narrative they're saying, that he admitted to doing this in some way. We don't know if he pled guilty or not. I imagine if you're admitting this to the authorities, all right, you're going to go into court and plead not guilty anyway, because that's typically how it's done. This comes from a
and
thread
they're claiming
leader.
he's white, the media.
Yeah, we'll get to that. Yeah, of course they are. They're spinning everything they can as a trope, anything they can to push the narrative. I mean, the memes are all over the place. Hey, he'll be a Netflix, documentary, and that documentary, he'll be white. Okay, of course.
The kid on the sitcom, that old
sitcom. Urkel. They make him look like Urkel. Yeah, I know.
Did I do that?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, honestly, and apparently this guy he has things with furries and avatars. So you're starting to see this thread. FBI arrested Cole in Woodbridge, Virginia for the pipe bomb incident. Took place on January 6th. PAA to uncover digital breadcrumbs. Okay. Carol Markowitz puts this. Suspect arrested in January 6th bomber is Brian Cole. There he is. He's not white. From left to right, Brandon, the brother, criminal, and another criminal, Brian Cole Jr. posts this from 17. They got a history of, let's just say, records, so to speak, rap sheets. I identified at least 2 email addresses in this thread, bjcole@gmail.com, Cole Brian. Both of these emails have historic counts and the same birth date, reporting back to 1995. Okay, here they are. We go there. Interesting, his email, Cole Brian, has been deleted entirely. His email, bjcole, Gmail, has not been logged in since March 27, 2023. Interesting. There it is here. Looking at the breached dark web information, only partial redacted due to public's interest, shows a pattern of patriotic U.S. patriotism and America, military like Delta, Delta One, passwords, users across the web. Interesting. Okay, I am hot for you, or for underscore cock appears to been a username associated to his email, colebryan@gmail. So there you go. All right. And that was involved in the 2016 hacking of adult friend, finder sex, and swingers hookup site. Here we go. I am hot for cock. Brian Cole has at least 2 accounts on Gaia Online, an anime-themed social networking forum-based website that launched in 2003. It was once extremely popular, especially among teens and young adults, for its form customizable avatars, virtual economy, based on earning and spending virtual currency. The suspect appears to be an avid gamer. His Gmails are registered to various games and accounts, including Envoy or Envany, Next Gen, Game Tuts, Gaia Online, EA, MPGH, Game Cheats. These avatars are images in the Gaia. There you go. Okay. I was able to acquire 5 older IP addresses. 2 email addresses include DC, Glenmont, Maryland, China, and Canada. There they are. Interesting. Brian Cole Jr. was looking for pen pals online sometime before 2015 when his account was part of a data breach. Brian Cole is clearly an avid gamer and into things like fantasy and anime. He had an account with Dueling Network, which is a Yu-Goji simulator. Like I said, I have no idea what these are. I am not a gamer. I have no idea what this shit is. Brian Cole has been using Delta moniker across gaming websites for over a decade. There it is. On June 9th, he created a Twitter account, Revilist4 USA. Interesting. Appears crime. Here we go. Appears crime runs in the family. This to Brittany. Tara Cole has numerous violations and arrest. DUI, drug possession, driving suspended license, no driver's license, reckless driving, multiple speed violations, expired registration, tint decals, right turn on red, hot lane violations. His brother, Brandon Marcus Cole, appears to be also a multiple felon. Possession of controlled substances, possession with intent to manufacture and distribute, manufacturing controlled substance, prisoner possession of unlawful chemicals, felony marijuana, disorderly conduct. Here's the father. Looks like who? Who does this look like? Diddy. Brian Jerome Cole, driving recklessly, 80 miles per hour, 20 miles. I don't care about speed stuff. Bond for forfeitures, Loudon Fluvana, noise violations, numerous in absentia guilty findings. Interesting. Look at all these traffic violations. Other repeat offenses. All right. I mean,
So
his
they're
brother.
dirtbags.
Yeah, his father, Jerome Cole, 13 years ago on YouTube was talking about being a bail agent. How about this one? So apparently, his father, Jerome Cole, appears to be, ironically, the president of Free You Bail Bonds. Brian Cole, here you go. His email, be something MSN redacted, is the register following of 83 bail bonds domains. According to open sources, his father had 2019 federal tax lien of $266,585. Wow. Here's another tax lien in 16 for $48,000. In March 15, here we go. He had another one. Wow, look at this. If you'd like to speak about these details of the investigation, you can hire me for your own. This guy puts this out. I think this is fantastic. You get an understanding who this guy was, but we still are not trying to really try to recreate the picture of who this guy is and what really prompted him to do this in some way. So let's look at this for a second. Go ahead, Marshall, your thoughts while we move on.
I'm a little light on if he actually was the one that did this, because there's another person that's out there that, you know.
Well, I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I can understand some way. Yeah, MG, what's up, MG615? No, dog, sorry, late. Yep, no, I know. Continue on. Let me just.
Cops, I get it. Okay. But there's another person that's, what was it? CIA, this lady with the short hair, kind of like, mannish.
Well,
that girl.
They ruled that out. Apparently, that's been ruled out because of the gait of the walk, so to speak. But look, they're running with this. They're saying this is the person. Law enforcement tracked down this man accused in D.C. Basically comes down to this. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and Explosives, Capitol Police, Metropolitan Police, Department of District of Columbia, and the FBI work together to look at evidence and find and arrest Cole. The investigation of the pipe bombs in Washington is a priority of Deputy Director Bongino. Okay, since the time, FBI teams have gone back over every fact, data point, and looking for new leads. According to the Justice Department, 19 Cole purchased multiple components consistent with those used to manufacture two improvised explosive devices. On the day of the pipe bombs, they were placed at 2 locations in Washington. Video surveillance captured the suspect wearing dark pants, a gray hooded sweatshirt, dark gloves, Nike Air Max, turf shoes, and a face mask that obscured the person's face. Let me stop there. When they searched this guy's home in Woodbridge, Virginia, did they find any of this stuff? We don't know yet. Did they find, or this person just did he dispatch with this stuff a long time ago? If he were smart, you would. The video showed the individual adjusting eyeglasses and carrying a backpack. Hopefully you got rid of that too, buddy. On the evening of January 5th, 2020, a license plate reader captured Cole's car about a half a mile from the location where one of the pipe bombs was placed, and around the same time the cell phone tower was picked up. That's where they got the communications from, near the RNC and the DNC. All right, let's stop here and really go over this, because I'm going to ask a lot of questions, because I'm really concerned about how this went. Let's just say, in some way, all these years, I mean, in some way, how did this go where they had to go through sorting some material to let's just say, revive this, revisit this, recapture the narrative, the January 6th illusion built in a lie that sealed the deal of a stolen election? Was this evidence left there to be uncovered and rediscovered? A lot of people think Ray's a great hat. I mean, I don't know about this. Do they have the videos of him placing these devices at said, let's just say, areas, specifically, like at the DNC, at the RNC, that we were told? Did Director Ray purposely withhold this evidence for what? The incoming Trump administration? I'm just throwing that out there. Let's hear your comments about this. And do you believe that? Was this info kept hidden from being destroyed? Who were the FBI agents holding back this info? How was this recovered? And was this info on a time release scenario? If we're all to believe in some way there's elements behind this, and what we see about Bongino and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel, they're just figureheads. They're just there. They're the central casting of everything. But behind the scenes, the real network of information is working. So again, I ask anybody out there, was this on a time release scenario for this to be dropped at this time? Is everything being engineered meticulously, methodically, systematically to reverse the 2020 election narrative that leads to the sham J6 committee indictments? Will this help facilitate, ease, clear the way, enable the normie NPC non-critical thinkers with low EQ for the January 6th mainstream media false narrative uncovering? I mean, look, there's some way I'm asking this. Does this roll back and help retrieve the evidence that help solidify? And also, by getting to this guy, who was he on the phone with? I mean, in some way, was he a dupe? Was he a plant? Who was he coordinating with? If they have his phone logs, and now that they found it because it was hidden, and they just did some Inspector Gadget, Pink Panther, Inspector Clouseau, Keystone Cop, what they call it, and all of a sudden now the crack team solved it, and then we're in a full year almost that this stuff was uncovered. Marshall, do you believe what Bongino said? Yeah. I mean, do you believe what Kash Patel said?
The big question is going to be not just this case, not just this one, but others. And it's going to lead to, why didn't we find out this stuff under Biden? Why did it take 5 years for another president to come in and figure it out within 10 months? You know, that's the big question. And it will lead those normies that you're talking about to say to themselves, yeah, that's a good point. What the hell's going on for the last 5 years? What were they doing? So, I mean, to me, it exposes more of the inept, it's not really inept in my opinion, but the corrupt bodies that we have throughout, coursing through the FBI, the CIA, and all of that. The whole, DC deal. So, no.
Well, DJ over there, 1508. What's up? You're on YouTube. That's great. Subscribed and like, going back and forth. The Foxhole baby. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Good to see people going back and forth. Yeah, we're just trying to build up over there. Yeah, to getting back what we're talking about. Look, there's so many things that we can go into and figure this out. But was this set up and planned to let's just say acquire this information at a later date for it to be exposed for this, let's just say, unveiling. I think so. I think
I
there's
agree.
something to
Yeah,
say there.
I
I
was
think
gonna
it's
say
more
that too.
logical to say that this evidence was hidden. Let's just say there are white hats, good people, decent FBI people that uncovered this, found this evidence, and kept it away from rogue agents in many places, whether under the direction of Ray or not. So this wouldn't be in a burn bag, wouldn't be destroyed. And so it could come out at a later date. Is that one scenario? Do you believe Director Ray is a gray hat and was working behind the scenes to help make sure and maintain the collection of evidence, like the burn bag and everything that we're finding out now, that deep, dark elements inside the black hole of the FBI, that there were splinter groups, agencies, black agents, dark agents, what have you, that were trying to not only infiltrate, trying to cut through all this stuff and make sure none of this stuff gets out and no one sees any of this stuff while they continue on with defrauding America in many cases. It's another discussion about that, but I think that it's plausible to suggest at this time, all right, that, and there's no coincidences. I mean, you could say, is this believable to say crack team, and maybe Bongino is correct. Maybe he said, yeah, there was evidence already done about this. And they looked upon this and they had to string this together in some way. If you buy that, do you believe that? I'm not sure about that. I'm just saying right now is that I think it's very coincidental that the information pertaining to what we're all talking about is about 2020, leading up to the great reveal, about rediscovering, uncovering, revisiting, regaining, recapturing the narrative about what it's all about. Are we backtracking here? So we're slow walking this back so we can figure out and put the puzzle together of what this was, what this entailed. Who put this guy up to do this? Obviously, the question still remains, who was he in coordination with? Who was he working with? Because this guy doesn't strike me as someone that would do this on his own by pretending that he was a Trump supporter and the election would be stolen, and the election was stolen, Marshall.
Well, and it's not just this one. It's like you said, everything we're seeing. I think the majority of what we're seeing every day as it plays out is a gradual rollout on a timeline that is that they desire for us to consume. So the people have to see it as they want it to come out. The script is they're putting out the script as they see fit when at the right time. Like you said, the timing, and all of this stuff, and then it's not just this one. It's many other things that they come out at the right times when they feel it's okay. Now it's time for this. Now it's time for the public to see this.
Yeah.
And then we're building up to a crescendo.
Yeah, I think so.
We're going to get into.
That's why I'm tired of all the Bongino. Look,
they're not even part of.
They're not even in charge. If you really think they're in charge, you're crazy.
No,
everything is directed via the White House. As President Trump has stated several times, it runs through the White House. The DOJ, who oversees the FBI, everything comes from that. Just like the Transparency Act. They released all the files on Epstein. The judge appointed by Trump today released the files on Epstein. Now it goes through Pam Bondi to release the unclassified version of it. So you're not going to see the classified version. The version that connects him to the deep dark. He's not going to show you the evidence connecting to J.P. Morgan and help laundering and facilitating that type of operation. They're not going to show you that. But it's going to show you quite a bit enough. Did you also realize that Guffrey's estate, worth $12 million, disappeared? And the husband that divorced her 2 months prior to that is looking to get whatever money left. Where did that money go after her death? And can we prove a chain of custody of that her death led to someone taking that money? Where did that money go? The family's asking that right now. Hard to believe any bullshit anymore. Trusty Turnip. Yep. ESP with the Podesta file. Yep, I agree. I got something right now. I'm going to play. Give me 1 second. Let's see. The Monroe Doctrine. I have a link. I'll send you something from Politico that I was showing there on the link in a second. Who else is here? Curious Cat. What's up? All part of the prison industrial complex. Yeah. All right. Here we go. So we're going to play this. This comes from Mike Benz. It's only a minute or two, but it gives a summation about understanding, destroys the narrative about the delay in the January 6th pipe bomber arrest was incompetence. Okay, there's no fucking way it's incompetence. It was an open cover-up. Okay, I can agree with that assessment. It was an open cover-up under the Biden direction, under Ray, FBI, complicit in this matter to make sure that the footage didn't come out that shows that this whole thing was fake and fugazi and that there was people involved that they didn't want the information to come out. All right, but if the guy is saying right now, he's told investigators of the FBI that, well, the election was rigged, and so this is the reason why I did that. I don't believe that either. And did he plead guilty or not in the court case in today's when he went to before a judge? I don't know if he pled guilty or not. I'm sure he pled not guilty. All right, so he comes back here. They gave us fake doctored footage, and they hid the evidence, and they pulled people off the case. This is not incompetence. They were competent at corruption. What we have here is pure obstruction, and what we have here is a crime. Yeah, okay. So who, Mike Benz, who committed this? Who? I mean, it falls under Director Ray, if you can argue that in some way. He could say, I had no knowledge of this. All right? And then complain, and then say, and yet it's incompetence. But that's how it's supposed to look. It's supposed to come off as this in some way. But I believe they purposely hid it. Elements inside the FBI did this. Now, how this was, let's just say, rediscovered, not uncovered, and then kept away for a later date to be revealed, like just not even 2 days ago. I think there was something to this. And how did we get to this point? I think that's something more that we need to discuss.
Involving narratives here is FBI incompetence under the Biden administration. There's no fucking way it's incompetence. It was an open cover-up. They gave us fake doctored footage. And they hid the evidence, and they pulled people off the case. That is not incompetence. That was competence at corruption. But what you have here is obstruction. What you have here is a crime. You have federal law enforcement officers obstructing justice by destroying an investigation of criminal wrongdoing. We should not be talking about this.
So the investigation in some way was destroyed. It was redirected. It was put down, so to speak. It was stopped. It was obfuscated. But evidence was collected. All right? They just didn't want to share that evidence. And so what they do, they buried it. Question is, how did they go from burying it and hiding it to all of a sudden now, within 48 hours, all this relevant information is coming out, and we're hearing more and more stuff is going to unfold. All right? We don't know what it is, but you could surmise at a great level that it impacts either former or current FBI people, maybe elements in our government, January 6th committee members, the unsolicited, let's just say, January 6th committee members, the sham committee trial. You got to consider that. Were they involved with this? They destroyed evidence. Did they have evidence of this stuff? I bet. And they destroyed it. So they leave no paper trail. But there is a paper trail. Because as Bongino said, the good detective work of the Keystone cops at the FBI, the white hats per se, found this evidence. And we're able to put this together. Are you buying that? I'm not. I'm not buying it at all. I believe whatever's behind President Trump is controlling this whole thing. They had it all from the beginning, and they are now slow walking this out, saying, here you go. Here's your talking point, Pam Bondi. Here's your talking point, Mr. Patel. Here's your talking point, Bongino. You say this, you say that, and you say this. All right? And that's how we're going to play this out. We'll give you further scripts later on to read about what we're seeing. Because if you think I'm a fucking schmuck, all right, well, then I'm going to fucking pull my hair out. I don't buy any of this. What? I mean, we have to sit back and say, are you fucking kidding me? So it took them 4 or 5 years, but great crack detective team. It's not like you're trying to fucking find a serial killer where there's mounds of evidence or no evidence. There's video footage everywhere. You're going to tell me there's no video footage of him actually planting the bomb underneath the fucking dumpster near the DNC or where the RNC is? There's probably so much more they're withholding again. This is all part of the discovery and the ongoing investigations. That's what they talk about. Let's finish the rest of this.
As though the FBI was incompetent this whole time. We should be talking about this like the FBI committed a fucking crime of obstructing justice.
Yes. Who committed a crime? We know Comey's committed many crimes. We know many elements of people that got fired, removed, that are being splintered right now, as Director Patel has said. They've removed a shit ton of people. The question is, and we need to answer, who? Do they have names? Yeah. Is it going to be real soon? Probably. Are they going to be indicted? Probably. So the idea is that we understand the criminal enterprise within the organization acted in this way. Are they still there? Are they still part of this? Have they been disseminated in some way? What are we to see here? We don't know.
And the FBI agents who are a part of this should not be disciplined for incompetence. They should be prosecuted for obstruction.
Well, of course. I mean, come on. If anybody's like aware of this, of course they should be. But who are they, Marshall? Who are these people? I mean, what are we to surmise here? I mean, people think it's like, yeah. I mean, you know, it's just, I think it's highly critical to just blanket say, yes, the organization itself is rotted from within. And then the top brass, the seventh floor, many people that are, we don't even discuss that. Who's really in charge running the seventh floor? Are we to say that the director really runs the FBI and it's not let's just say, a set group of people that sits on a council that debate stuff and then tells the director what to say or the deputy director what to say in some way? Those are the people we should be looking at. And are those people far removed? And we have a new set of people up there handing them their talking points. Think about that, Marshall.
You know what? Like the IRS, I think that we're heading the same direction with the FBI. This place is, I think that Patel is there to watch the slow dismantling of this federal agency, just like McMahon. McMahon is there for the what is it? The teachers group, whatever the name of it is.
Department of Education. Yes.
Yeah, Department of Yes.
Where's she going to go after that? I mean, the thing is, people like, you know, she's slow walking herself out of a job. That's good. She'll probably be moved into another position. You know.
Yeah, well, that's what I believe that's where we're heading with the FBI.
Yeah,
and then it will eventually be put towards the states.
Right.
The states
145 to 150 FBI personnel in every state handling the criminal investigations that are going on there. Will they move the branch out of D.C.? I don't know if that one is still going to be operational in Virginia. I know they're going to have some base impact in Alabama or something like that. That's where they're setting up shop in some way. But they're moving it out of D.C., which is a good thing. At least the higher brass, the element of that, to see that. So
I think that's where we're heading, man.
Yeah, BLM bomber is not MAGA. He just wants to be a part of January 6th blanket pardon. Let's listen to this. This is interesting.
The second American Revolution.
All right.
All right, we're back. Now, another declassified investigative journalist. Julie, you've got a piece up today at American Greatness. Or excuse me, it's an older piece from American Greatness that you're re-upping, where you were talking about the Fed-napping plots that the FBI was up to throughout 2020. In those plots, what were they doing? They were using people to pose essentially as MAGA supporters or anti-government types to then get people to try and commit crimes against political officials. Julie, why did you re-up that today, talking about informants, undercovers, federal handlers, FBI handlers, those types of things?
Well, look at what the FBI was up to in 2020. And this kind of like popped in my head as I was reading the complaint yesterday against Mr. Cole, and that his purchase of these bomb components stretched over months, really over a year. I think the first purchase allegedly was late 2019. Well, what was happening throughout 2020? You had the Whitmer Fednapping hoax. I've done a ton of reporting on that. You and I have talked about it. Dozens of FBI informants, handling agents, undercover agents set out to...
So confidential informants and handlers, were they handling this guy? How did this guy know how to make these fake pipe bombs? Think about that. Who was helping him do this? Obviously,
Exactly.
he was trained to do it.
Yeah.
There's no way this kid learned how to do this on his own. He didn't learn it from the internet. To make fake bombs, because we don't want to make real bombs and actually real people get killed. All right? We just want to make it look like and stage this. Okay? So how much of these confidential handlers of the FBI were involved with this in some way? The same people that are involved with Antifa. Are we going to say that this guy was connected to it?
Purposely entrap these men in Michigan, make it look like right-wing militiamen supportive of Donald Trump were trying to kidnap and kill Gretchen Whitmer. What most people aren't aware of is during the trial that a second plot by the same FBI, the same main confidential human source informant, was also trying to do the same thing to at least one man in Virginia, and trying to get him to execute the same sort of plot against Ralph Northam. And a lot of that involved advising this man how to build explosives. So is this a huge reach to believe that maybe this individual who seemed like kind of a loner, there's a lot of reporting on him, whether he's a left-winger, whether he was just a loner, whether he was into some weird stuff that gets the attention of law enforcement. Was he doing the same sort of thing? I don't know. Probably not. Is it a tiny possibility? Yes, because that's what we know all Chris Wray's FBI was doing throughout 2020. The Whitmer Fednapping, the Northam Fednapping, embedding informants in the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers, trying to gin up all these inflammatory group texts that were later used as evidence against them in their J6 trials. And then, of course, the setup of January 6th itself. So I guess this is where my thought process is right now. Could it be wrong? Absolutely. But given what we know the Chris Wray FBI was doing in 2020, is it possible that this Brian Cole is somehow associated with the FBI or law enforcement? And Jack, that's why this case went completely cold as of March 2021.
Because he was part of, as we move on, he was part of the J6 sham with Antifa, with the confidential handlers, with everything moving forward. He was part of the operation to stage a false flag attack in some way, blame it on January 6th, blame it on Trump supporters, what have you, as they did moving forward. And so they can make sure that the certification of a stolen election goes through. And I think that just adds to what we're seeing right now. I'm not saying Ray, okay? What I'm saying is there was a lot of elements involved, okay, under Ray that were doing this. Were they being documented and allowed to do this under Ray? And this was being recorded in some way, and that's how they have this information? Are we to surmise that? Is that possible? Could you fathom that? Or are we just saying Ray orchestrated this whole thing, lied to Congress, lied to the Senate, and set this whole thing up? But yet, this evidence just happened to appear out of the blue. Bongino's crack team, they got it. Inspector Gadget, they figured it out. Go Gadget Arms, they figured it out. They called up Monk, the defective detective, and he was able to pierce this out in some way. Well, if you put this together and that, come on. I don't know how much people, I really do think in some way that they really do think we're stupid. I really do. I really do. And it's sad in some way. Everything is so engineered. Your reality is engineered on a daily basis by what the media tells you, by what the spin is of this central casting. From Bondi and Patel and Bongino. I mean, it's just wow. Because if you go back and listen to Bongino on his past podcast, and he was great. He was great. He did not sound the same way that he was talking about this as he talked about what's been uncovered. He did mention confidential handlers. He did mention informants. He talked about in some way, was there a connection? Marshall.
Well, again, Brett, I mean, it goes back to the fact that these guys, they're all playing a part. They're doing what they're supposed to do at a certain time. And it's just the way it has to unfold. Meanwhile, all the other shit is going on. They're not in control of the big part of it.
No.
As you've said, we've talked about it.
I don't believe so at all.
They're allowed to. They Trump or whoever pushes out an envelope and said, okay, here's what you're going to do now. We're going to let this out because we're getting closer to this next point, to this next phase.
Yes.
And it has to be phased out in a way. That part of it is all scripted. All of this is scripted.
Yeah.
In a way, it's pre-set up. It's already predetermined. And it's not a bad thing. It's just that they have to do it in a certain way so that people really so that people can wrap their head around, and also so that they can get all of their ducks in a row to finalize and close the deal on this whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. What is it? Why would Glenn Beck say it was a female? What if he's spot on, but the agency has to deflect? It's something to think about. I don't know. I mean, if there are people inside the FBI that were helping, coordinating in some way, this kid or this gentleman, I think he's 30 now, 33. He was younger back then, 25, 26, whatever, and helped him construct a device that's, a weapon of mass distraction that basically didn't go boom, so to speak. I'm not saying that Kyle Seraphin, which I don't trust that guy, but I mean, I would say Glenn Beck, they should be careful in some way. Where was this evidence from? I mean, I'm not saying that Glenn Beck's completely off, but they're saying that there's more to this story. There are other people involved, and I don't know who that is. But you could make the argument that person who did leave ended up working for a 3-letter agency after they left the FBI. What were they doing? Were they involved with this? Is that why they left? I don't know. I don't think we're going to know all the little ins and outs of this until until the next script is handed out. I don't think so either. I don't know how this is actually selling right now. There are some people that believe it, some people don't. Okay. They don't. No one trusts the FBI, whether Bongino or Patel's there. That's fine. I mean, why would you? But they're producing stuff. It looks like they're doing stuff. I mean, should we applaud this? Is this going to stand? Well, I mean, if the guy is saying that he did it and he admits to it, and now they're trying to presume in some way that he's going to fall into some pardon from January 6th and use some type of ideological discussion about using civil rights and all these other things. I don't know who's talking to and representing him. Oh, that's right. It's George Floyd's attorney, Crump, apparently. And so they want to get into what? So what is he going to say? He's a victim here? Is he spilling the beans on this? What if he's implicating other people? You think he's going to implicate other people? Probably not. I mean, if he's smart, he'd shut his mouth if he wants to live. I mean, that's the way. I mean, when they would have silenced this guy a long time ago, if he was a threat, did anybody think that this was going to be uncovered? See, these are the things that you got to get into. All right. If this guy was a threat to bring down something in some way, why wouldn't he be eliminated? You could see what all the stuff on the thread I showed you. Let's continue on. Like, share, and subscribe. Drop us a gold pill. Questions, comments, or concerns. Help out the platform. You can help out Marshall. Ko-fi.com/surfdog74. Let's continue on this.
Will there ever be a look back on the way, perhaps your predecessors or other people in the FBI handle this to question those methods and motives? Again, the fact that it disappeared, from the news basically the second, January 6th happened and was never brought back up again, even in the months following. It seems odd. And I mean, it seems like something that people would want answers to. Will there be a review process on how this was conducted differently? How you guys could do this, 4 years later, and then 8 or 9 months, actually come up with a suspect versus the prior administration having 4 years, a more immediate timeline, being able to go right into it, having the immediacy of that, or even the fact that they just didn't care, doesn't that say so much about the weaponization of justice in America today?
Absolutely. And I think you're going to see it on parallel tracks. What you're going to see is as this case presents itself in court, you're going to see where we were able to collect the evidence and make the case against this suspect. And then common sense journalism and investigators are going to be able to look at it and say, why did these people do X, Y, and Z 4 or 5 years ago? That's going to make itself self-apparent. But what we're doing at this FBI is also, we have replaced this entire leadership cadre. We have pushed out 1,000 agents into the field. There's a reason this FBI has 25,000 violent offenders arrested this year alone. That's twice as many as last year. There's a reason that this FBI is going to deliver President Trump the lowest murder rate in modern history by double digits. There is a reason this FBI is out there crushing fentanyl, destroying narco traffickers, and making sure the homeland is safe and preventing spies from infiltrating our homeland and our way of life. That's what happens when you change leadership from the prior administration FBI, who wanted to weaponize and politicize law enforcement, to us, President Trump and the Attorney General, who want to just deliver law enforcement on every single front. And that's what we're doing. So you're going to see it in both lanes.
I could buy what he's selling. I agree with that premise. It's changing, and that's why I'm not going to be critical of Kash Patel, Bongino. They are delivering with stuff, whether you believe it or not, whether you trust them or not. But from my standpoint, the way I look at everything is that I do believe that they're the face of the Justice Department per se. They're bit players, they're actors, they're role players in this, and they are handed scripts. I think everything comes from the White House, and at this time, from this standpoint, that's what we're seeing. Things are dropped for a time release scenario. I do believe so. I don't think things happen just accidentally and stuff because, that they just uncovered it recently. It's a good way of saying, well, we rediscovered evidence. We found some new evidence that we're hitting. Okay, that's fine. Like the burn bag. At the bottom of the burn bag, there's evidence of this. I can get all that stuff. It can make sense in some way that this evidence was misplaced. It was hidden. It was, let's just say, redirected away from people putting this out. And no one was going to put this out at the FBI. No one. Not at the time that they were under direct array. Or the 7th floor, whoever occupied that at the time. Maybe there's a new 7th floor right now. Maybe they don't even exist anymore. Maybe they aren't even relevant anymore. Marshall, your thoughts?
Well, the one thing, and I wanted to mention this earlier, the one thing about the DOJ and the FBI, they are still being cops. They're doing cop work. You can look up all the stuff that they've done. They are busting the hell out of pedophiles and child trafficking. They're doing all that stuff. And Trump and whoever else, the military, whatever, they've said, hey, go for it. You go for all that. That's all you. That's your job. Go for it. But this higher level shit, we're going to give it to you in chapters or a script, as we say. Yeah. It's not just Alphabet said, like the script that we got in September. Well, it's not just one. It's a chapter. Okay, we're getting a chapter from a long thing, a book that's being brought out gradually.
It's a play. You got to think about it as a theatrical play, and the way that the play is, the manuscript is written out. All right, this is what it does here at this time.
Act 1, this is where Act 2, Act 3.
Yes. Think of Hamlet, Macbeth. Think about how these things are. So at this time, you'll get this, and a later time, you'll get that. And meanwhile, we have all these other things going on. So you can't hate the fake news as much as Jake Tapper here saying that this.
Cole Jr., a 30-year-old white man from the D.C. suburbs, is charged with transporting.
I guess this guy doesn't look black enough, so he's got to be white.
Interstate commerce and with malicious destruction.
You're going to tell me that's not on purpose? He's also reading a script, all right, from a teleprompter, and that's what they told him to put in there, all right? I'm telling you that these people are sick. Thank you, Thea, for the shades. Marshall, it just...
He looked like, that neighborhood, it looked like he lived next to the Griswolds.
Yeah.
He was in the perfect house.
Yeah.
I'm like wondering where, what was the kid's name? Home Alone. Where are you?
Macaulay Culkin?
Yeah, the kid that, whatever his name was in the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was that neighborhood. I'm like, and he is in Woodbridge, Virginia, which is only about 20 minutes from D.C. So
Yeah.
he could have been the guy that went around and,
They call it Hoodbridge. That's what I'm told.
Yeah.
It's Hoodbridge, Virginia. That's what they say. It's ghetto gangster. You know. All right, so we're moving on. We're done with that. Admiral in charge of strikes on Venezuelan narco terrorists who actually spoke with the House Oversight Committee. Yes, I think it was the Oversight Committee that Hegseth never ordered him to kill them all. And that, the entire story is a giant lie, is the key report Alex Jones breaks down here. Historic this. So let's play this.
Everything you heard about Hegseth and the kill them all drug boat story was a lie. If you leak something that's truly exposing criminal activity, you're protected. If you leak something that isn't exposing criminal activity, you've committed a serious felony with national security information. If you leak lies, hiding it under a leak of national security information, you've now engaged in false signals or a false flag, and you've now planted dangerous disinformation to undermine the military and national security of this country, and they have a name for it. It's called espionage. So it is treason. They just think they're going to sit there in any conflict we're in or any crisis and have a bunch of traitors inside the Pentagon lie and tell the Washington Post made up stories. But you know, the Washington Post and the Democrats are so bad, maybe there's not anybody actually they even talk to. You think of that? Now, they found out who planted this lie, this fake intelligence, and they indict that piece of crap for espionage, working for a criminal cabal. See, we always think of espionage, again, as the Israelis or the Chinese or something, or the Venezuelans.
Inside our own government.
Traitors inside our country for election theft. Yeah. That's the classic thing. But no, there's corporate espionage. There's globalist espionage. There's
military espionage.
And most of our problems are actually BlackRock and the globalists and the big banks and all these places. They all operate as their own spy networks.
Absolutely.
And so we need to see cases for the first time of espionage, not against people working for foreign countries, but working for corporate criminal mafias.
Mm-hmm.
Pharmaceutical
and that's what the Democratic
complexes.
Party and their whole globalist, socialist, communist international is. But you're supposed to not have a memory and just, Hegseth, kill everybody. He's a war criminal. All of it lies. None of it was true. Totally made up. Testified. Showed him the video.
Let me just stop this. Hey, War Angel, what's up? Oh, my God, I love Alex. Good to see you, War Angel, my Florida peeps. Alita says Hamlet comes to mind. Method of Madness. Yes, that's why I mentioned it. Listen, who ever thought that you got these speedboats going 60 nautical miles, okay, with fishing poles out of them? Have you seen any trolleys to catch fish? Did anybody believe that in some way? But that's how the media spun that. And they wanted you to believe that nonsense. I don't think anybody's watched Miami Vice with the speedboats. You think that these people are in fishing trawlers, just sitting offshore, okay, pretending to be some deep dark, collecting intelligence stuff? They're racing away. You know, and I think it's funny that people bought into the narrative. And the media sold that lie. And they are complicit as well. Because they sold this narrative, all right, that Pete Hegseth was being seditious in himself. That he was what? He was not following orders. He was giving the wrong orders. He was throwing the admiral under the bus, which never happened, or under the ship. Never happened. And now they want to impeach him. You got that Indian congressman, shouldn't be there, dual passport. I mean, that dirt slop, he's got to go. Wants to impeach Hegseth, puts files impeachment. Good luck with that. You even have Tom Cotton, who's a never Trumper, who's a fucking, military industrial guy, who's a warmonger. He's coming out and said, none of this story is real. Who would in their right mind believe what you're seeing these video footages of these guys trying to overturn the boats and put their fucking drugs back in it and speed back off? The fact that they put this lie out there to smear him again because they want to undercut the military chain. This is beyond treason, okay? This is military espionage, All right. The media, corporate espionage, as Alex is saying, many other levels of interfering with the chain of command. And it's right in your face. We are being slowly engineered to see the reality that they're putting out there, and they want us to digest this.
Exactly. Nobody fishes from a cigarette boat, Brett. You lived in South Florida. The last thing a person that owns a cigarette boat is going to want fish in their fucking boat.
Yeah.
Believe me, those things are, you know what they're doing with the cigarette boats?
Yeah.
They got hot women in there that are half naked.
Have you ever been on a speedboat? I have. Have you ever been on a fast boat?
A Donzi.
Not a yacht. I'm talking like yes.
Yeah, like a Donzi.
You're not fishing.
Those things fly.
You're going there for speed, for luxury, for
and
sport.
Hotness.
Yeah. It's to look cool and shit. You're not there. I'm like, oh, hey, I want to throw bait while I'm going 60 miles per hour so I can catch a fucking shark. You know? I mean, it's just the most ludicrous thing. You're speeding away for a reason. You have a place to get to go. I mean, it's just nonsense. Listen to the rest of this.
Play the audio of the commands and orders coming in. Hegseth's not even on the damn tapes. Total lie. To undermine the president and the Secretary of Defense and the readiness of our military ahead of the globalists trying to stage a coup. Kind of a big deal.
Enough with that, but I think the point is relevant. You have many elements inside corporate military-industrial complex.
Absolutely.
Fucking senators and congressmen all activated and all what? Continuing a narrative, okay, of seditious, treasonous, what? The conspiracy, the lie, by perpetrating this espionage, okay, and turning this into some type of facsimile. It would never existed. Again, engineered lies right before your face, Marshall.
It's, and we talked about this a while back, that the corporations, the large corporations like BlackRock, whatever, they're intertwined and they're tangled in with the government.
Right.
So now we've got a variation form of the movie Idiocracy.
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's what
That's where we're headed. We still got normies left and right. Think about the world we live in. On X, on Pilled, on Rumble, all these platforms. What percentage of the population, let's just say from the United States, because I don't know outside the world, let's just say from the United States that are on these platforms, okay, let's just take the bulk and count even the illegals, okay? Let's say 350 million. We know 50 million of them are illegal. So we'll say 300 million and we'll just call it a day. Out of the 300 million, okay? And you take the adults, the teens, adolescents, the people that are watching, all right? You minus that number, okay? You get down to what? 250, all right? Maybe a little less. How many of those people, percentage-wise, are watching this shit? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because it's not 10%. Maybe. You saying 25 million watch this stuff? Possibly. I mean, look, Tucker Carlson gets what, 50 million? Hell, Candace Owens get what, 5 million for every replay, some ridiculous amount? So, if we're saying 50 million, 100 million people are watching Rumble, YouTube, and they're getting the news outside of this, and that's a guesstimate. I'm not saying that at all, okay? But clearly, the rest of this world, the rest of this country is completely in the dark and has no idea what's going on. Thank you, Thea, for the can. Thank you for supporting the channel, as always. Thank you for the wonderful Christmas gift. Would USA donating 817 gold pills. Need more gold pills. Love and support the boy stream. Thank you again for always being there and supporting the platform. Let me continue on. From Drago, 2006, Lou Dobbs reported Smartmatic voting machines were managed by Venezuela. Sidney Powell has been saying this since 2020. Remember, release the Kraken. A Venezuelan military intelligence whistleblower just confirmed that. We talked about it. This is what he says.
Venezuela could be allowed to take over one of this country's top voting machine firms. Venezuela, of course, led by Hugo Chavez, working to change the views of most South American countries, move to the left. Critics of the deal say our nation's very democracy is now for sale without anyone doing a thing about it.
I'm not going to play this anymore. The great Lou Dobbs, I think he died. He was great. Listen, let's put it this way. That was before Obama. Think about how Obama got into office. Did anybody ever think about that in place? All right, when that was being discussed at that time, Marshall.
Yeah, that's they use these Smartmatic machines, Dominion, and all these, and this is. I honestly believe that one of the factors that we're down there with this carrier fleet is these voting machines. That's part of it. It's not the main reason, but there is an element of that involved in this. These people, and they use these machines all over the world, man.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, I
various
know.
places. So,
well, how many elections have been stolen since 2006, 2008?
Exactly.
I mean, you can go back to Chavez. So I mean, his time was up to move on. I said to you on Wednesday, Keith Ellison and Tim Walz are on an investigation. This came out yesterday. And I did a show on Wednesday, and I said they're in investigation, and now it's being released. Tim Walz and Minnesota AG Keith Ellison now under congressional investigation for allowing widespread fraud. Boom.
Investigations into this fraud. Folks, Governor Tim Walz and the House Oversight Committee, which has launched its own investigation into the fraud, is now requesting documents, records, and communications from both Walz and State Attorney General Keith Ellison.
He's on tape taking a bribe, Ellison.
Other state officials may have been warned and ignored those warnings, allowing this fraud to happen.
The state employees in Minnesota rang the bell. They blew the whistle that there was massive fraud, and yet Tim Walz and Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, apparently turned a blind eye to that for fear of political retaliation from the large voting bloc of Somalis.
Yeah.
Yep. And now they're under indictment. I mean, does Keith Ellison and Tim Walz resign, or are they going to be forced out with their hat in the hand from an indictment or a subpoena? What do you think?
The Democrats never walk away.
Right.
They double down. So no, I don't believe at all. They're never going.
So they're not going to walk away. They're not going to resign.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Right. No. So they'll
They're
have
gonna
to be
forced
they'll have
out
to be
on their
indicted
ass.
and arrested. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Or handed the evidence and say, hey, look, you could take an indictment and an arrest, or you could just go quietly. I mean,
I've never seen any of them. I would like to see it, but
right.
They got Santilli to leave, but they was a
listen to this.
Republican.
Let's listen to Mr. Oz here. Dr. Oz. It's true. A Somalia fraud ring in Minnesota stole over billions. $8 billion, ladies and gentlemen, were stolen in Minnesota by Somalis grifting. Listen to this.
From Medicaid. How did this happen?
You wonder
well,
why
Medicaid programs are run
wonder
by
why
the
you have
states, which
problems.
in Minnesota means the Tim Walz administration. Governor Walz and the state's other Democrats rely on Somali votes to get elected. So they decided to look the other way because they were afraid of, quote unquote, political backlash. Don't take my word for it. That's what a Somali American fraud investigator told the New York Times. When these scammers realized that nobody was guarding the cash register, they went gangbusters. One program designed to provide housing stabilization assistance to...
This is not even the Justice Department. The Health and Human Services. Dr. Oz is telling you that the fraud that was there perpetrated of the theft of $8 billion, that was the accumulation. A lot of it was Medicaid. When you see how bad this was,
Oh my
it
God.
was signed off
Yes.
by Walz because he's the only person that could do it.
patients ballooned to $104 million, when 4 years ago it was projected to cost only $2.6 million. Some of these taxpayer funds may have even ended up in the hands of a Somalian terrorist group. Scary stuff. When CMS became aware of the housing program situation, Minnesota insisted it could clean up its own mess. A few months ago, it admitted it could not. So we stepped in to shut down the fraud-infested housing initiative.
They couldn't stop what they allowed and helped create. How about that? So CMS, Dr. Oz, they had to go do it themselves. It's crazy.
They were taking action on more than a dozen other programs, which I've outlined in the post below. Our message to Walz is clear. Either fix this in 60 days or start looking under your couch for spare change, because we are done footing the bill for your incompetence. This administration will never stop fighting to protect the vulnerable Americans who rely on these programs and the taxpayers.
How about they cancel all Medicaid in Minnesota because they can't fix it? Here you go.
Loeffler, who leads the small going by the day. Kelly Loeffler, who leads the Small Business Administration, says in the 2 days her agency has been investigating the state, they've uncovered at least $1 million in PPP fraud just 2 days in. Several of the whistleblowers in Minnesota have also told lawmakers they believe the total amount of fraud could total up to more than $8 billion. Governor Tim Walz, who is up for re-election, is under fire for all of this happening under his watch. But he says they have paused these programs. They've brought in outside auditors to get an idea of how far-reaching this fraud was. They're taking steps to keep it from happening again. And he's defending his management of the state while also taking shots at Republicans and the president.
And in spite of the headwinds we're up against, Minnesota ranks economically, economic growth, happiness, number of people insured, education levels near the very top. So I'll tell you what, I have no interest in having this state look like Oklahoma or Mississippi. And if folks are going to commit crimes here, thinking because our generous spirit and our programs that we have is going to give them some kind of cover, they are sadly mistaken.
This guy, man, he's doubling down on retard. He really is. I mean, Somalia has 99 problems, a retard Walz has one. He's responsible for this. He signed off on this. His programs were the reason why they got this money. You don't think you think the Medicaid just went to some private group and stuff? It goes to the state government. He's responsible for it. He signed off legislation for it. How did it get detoured? Where did it go into from there? They know where it went. How many people were taking kickbacks and bribes on it? Probably a shit ton. I'm going to drop this in the
That's the whole
chat.
thing, man. This guy, I guarantee you, he got a load in his wallet from this whole deal, this whole Medicare.
Well, I think he's got problems with. I think he's got problems with China. I mean, big times. I'm going to drop this in the actual chat because this is too big to read. Thank you, Thea, for the cookie. I'm going to drop this in the chat again so you guys can read this. I highly recommend you reading this. You'll understand the situation we're in and what's really poisoning America. I mean, when you understand that, you'll get to this. All right, moving on. We got to get into a couple other things. All right, let's get into the SCOTUS blog regarding what took place with the Texas Fold'em. This is big, and we'll cover this a little bit. This is part of the talking points of the show. Trusty Turnup gifted the cookie. He fired the whistleblowers. Of course he did. They're the ones who pointed out the problem to him. And what did he do? He said goodbye. So it falls on his doorstep. Question is he gonna respond to a subpoena from the oversight if they go and bring him in? Is the Justice Department going to bring him up on charges? I mean, right now, how much of collection of evidence from the whistleblowers does the FBI have to investigate this in some way? They should. The Justice Department should. Look, at this point, does he need to come into Congress? Congress does nothing anyway. I mean, it's there is just what? To, raid this guy over a bed of hot coals and, watch him scream retard, and I mean, what's the point? Get the evidence, fucking indict him, and arrest his ass. That's what I want to see. Or, you know what? What they normally do in this administration. Some people will resign because they'll be forced to. Okay, but I'd like to see this guy arrested. You can't just walk away from this. $8 billion. How much money did the AG take? I mean, these things you just can't walk away from when that much amount of theft. Okay,
I bet it's more than that.
I mean, larceny that you just can't. And then all the criminality that Somalia has created that you set aside, that you say these wonderful people that live there. They are not wonderful people. They are scum. They need to be sent back to all of them with their anchor baby freaking what? Shithole, rat hole, dirt fucking children because they're going to grow up and rob this place and kill too. Honestly, I don't really care. That's why read the old market.us that I read you briefly earlier on. It's a great article that I put in the chat. All right. Supreme Court allows Texas to use redistricting map challenged as racially discriminatory. Okay, the Supreme Court on Thursday gave the green light to Texas efforts to able to use a new congressional map favorable to Republicans in 2026. All right, majority of the court, this was Alito who said this, that the state's request to pause the ruling issued early this month by a 3-judge panel in El Paso. The ruling had been on hold since the 21st of November. Alito, who handles the emergency appeals from Texas, temporarily stated and gives the justices time to consider the state's request. Wednesday decision extends that hold indefinitely. Texas is likely to exceed on its merits its claim that the district court committed 2 serious errors. Moreover, it added the lower court improperly inserted itself to an active primary campaign, causing much confusion and upsetting the delicate federal-state balance in elections. Kagan, all right, she's the liberal, dissented from the ruling in an opinion joined by Sonia Sotomayor and the illegal Ketanji Brown Jackson. Thursday's orders, she said, announces that Texas may run next year's elections with the map the district court found to have violated all of our oft-repeated structures. That's what it's supposed to be, and the use of race in redistricting. Today's order, she continued, disrespects the work of the district court and that everything one had could carry out its charge. Look, it's not just Texas. Texas has 38 seats in the U.S. House of Representatives, 22 which are controlled by the Republican Party. Republicans as a whole has a much narrower margin, 219 and 214. So they'll gain 5, okay? So let me just discuss this because we're going to go back to this. So they're going to gain 5. So the 5+ red seats are going to gain. The Alito majority opinion likely to cede on the merits, based upon ignoring the presumption of legislative good faith. This basically is the Democrat firewall is over. All right. This is basically going to be destroyed in a lot of different ways. And what it does is it sets up the argument. All right. This is a precedent now. It increases the paths for a GOP-friendly redistrict map all over the nation, Georgia, Arizona, and Florida, which Florida is going to get 5 himself. Arizona can get 4. Georgia can get 3 more. This is based on a good faith presumption. It undermines the racial component argument by the plaintiff, or it ignored it in some way. That's the thing about this discussion. And I think, look, everybody talking about a blue hair wave, that's fine. Let them keep it up. I'm all for it. Keep it up. Keep pushing that narrative. Keep pushing that narrative. Because the redistricting is going to go all the way through, all the way up to the November election of 2026, if we have one. And I think in some way, if they realize that they're going to lose, they'll shut it down. Oh, they'll shut it down if they could. But I think that you'll see several states, okay, 5 here, 4 here, 3 here, that the possibility up to 20 redistricting maps in multiple different states would give us that many different representatives. Now you're saying, okay, it's Congress. It's these people do nothing anyway. Are we going to get rhino cucks? Are we going to get MAGA people and stuff? Well, I mean, that's the problem. That's always the luck of the draw. I mean, that's always what we have. That's always what we're going to deal with. But if you get more of a majority in there, the less likely other people will walk away and vote with the Democrats in legislation battles. And this could help facilitate in some way, push us over the threshold where you might get pressure on the Senate to basically force the filibuster. Remember, that's Senate rules. But what I'm saying is a majority inside the legislation of the House increases, I think, the possibility of forcing certain legislation to get through that would not normally pass because of a bigger majority that would be forced down their throat, the Senate, to have to pass. And if they can't pass it because of their 53-47 setup, then that would ultimately mean that they'd have to force certain things through based on limiting the filibuster or overcoming the filibuster or changing the rules, Marshall.
Yeah, and another big one is Indiana, because they just got that one just went through today. I was reading about that. In spite of that asshole Republican that was trying to shut it down. So you got Indiana too. And you know, like you said, this whole blue wave thing. Well, go ahead. Go ahead. I think this redistricting is going to make a huge difference. Like you said also, if there's an election. If.
All right, moving on. Beware Netflix media takeover. I want to cover this. Netflix, Warner Brothers Discovery announced that Netflix to acquire the company. This is not good. President Trump not even said a couple of weeks ago he wants to make Hollywood great again by making good 80s and 90s movies. And so thus, now we see that Netflix is trying to involve themselves by taking over Warner Bros. Is selling America's premier storytelling institution to one of the most ideological companies who is basically, when you sit on the board, the Obamas on earth really want the right thing to do. To understand what's at stake, you have to understand Warner Brothers actually is. They own the entire HBO catalog. 128 million subscriber HBO Max streaming platforms. arguably Netflix's single biggest rival, and some of the most culturally influential franchises in the world. Its library defines prestige television, shapes global entertainment, and reaches audiences Netflix has never been able to dominate on its own. All right, I'm not going to go through this. I got other stuff about that. This is very concerning. Larry Ellison is freaking out. I mean, apparently right now is that in his Skydance, he's trying to block this. They want to purchase this in some way to compete in some way, and they don't want them to gain a monopoly. And I think this is something to be concerning. And he's not the only person. Let me put this out. New York Post puts this out. This is something that I think a lot of people, President Trump now is supposedly going to get involved in this. I don't know if the SEC could block it. I don't know if the FTC, I don't know if the FCC can get involved. David Ellison makes his case to the White House as Netflix bid for WBD, Edges, and Paramount Skydance. All right. The argument is Netflix submitted a bid value of $28 a share, edging Paramount Skydance. Now they're going to up theirs to $30. So it's unclear where the bidding for Thursday's third round biddings will go. But, you know, if you're Ellison, you go to the board and say, look, we'll give you as much as we can to up this, because if you're going to go, but most likely this is going to go through. The DC visit comes amid mounting pessimism from Paramount Skydance about its bid. Senior executives believe Warner Brothers is inclined to nix the offer in favor of Netflix, despite the latter regulatory hurdles, as first reported by the Post. Paramount Skydance signaled multiple letters in this week that it could go hostile. Now, understand what this is about. Netflix makes stuff for their platform. They take away from the theatrical underpinning, the theatrical moment. All right. And what they do is that they're going to have a large share of producing movies that are not going to go directly to movie theaters theatrically. How can they be in the discussion of getting Oscars? And there's a lot of stuff out there that a lot of people are talking about. Let me show you this. Listen to this. James Cameron comes out here swinging hard. He's got Avatar 4 and 5 coming. He's got another Terminator. Netflix would be a disaster. Worth a listen from a guy who knows more about this business than anyone. Listen to this.
Right? Yeah. I mean, you made a movie with David Ellison, Terminator movie. What do you think of him buying Paramount and trying to take over Warner Brothers?
I think he's the best possible choice.
Wow. You do?
Absolutely.
Above Netflix, above Comcast.
Oh, Netflix would be a disaster.
You
Sorry, Ted, but geez, Sarandos has gone on record saying theatrical films are dead.
Outmoded, yeah.
No, theatrical is dead, quote unquote. Theatrical is dead.
I don't know if he said that, but he said that it's an outmoded experience.
It's a quote.
For most.
And what killed it? COVID. And it was already dying, limping along. Pricing, you had COVID, and people haven't returned because prices are too high and people can't afford it. I mean, you go to a movie theater and you go to the ones where you can eat and dine, and next thing you know, it's $100, you know? And then basic overall tickets today, what? They could be anywhere from $14, $15. It depends on where you're going to go. You know, you're not going to go into some, small little bistro. A lot of these places have now combined food and anything to help offset the cost. But Cameron's right. How are you going to make movies great again if Netflix is going to take over operational control and they're going to catalog all these movies, 128 million, that they'll be involved with and that they'll be in charge of doing different. No one's going to want to work with Warner Brothers. Think about that. So what he's saying, Ellison is the right guy because he'll leave Warner Brothers alone. They'll buy it at a higher share while he controls Skydance and Paramount. And they'll say, you run Warner Brothers the way you want to, all right? And we'll make sure the profit margin goes up. But the point is, what he's saying is, how am I going to get a movie out? I mean, if it's going to go straight to Netflix, no one's going to want to watch it. That's the whole point about going to the movie theater, especially big things. And how is it? Look, how is it that you're going to get an Oscar? Listen to what he says about this.
Okay. Quote, at least to the extent that you can verify anything.
But now he's promising theaters if they buy Warner Brothers.
I know, but it's
he doesn't believe that.
It's sucker bait.
Yes.
Right? It's sucker bait. And we'll put the movie out for a week. We'll put it out for 10 days. We'll qualify for Academy Awards consideration. See, I think that's fundamentally rotten at the core. A movie should be made as a movie for theatrical, and the Academy Awards to me mean nothing if they don't mean theatrical.
So you think Netflix would be a disaster for Warner Brothers, but big tech.
Warner Brothers would just become a streamer, and so now you've lost an actual theatrical major And now you've just increased that avalanche, that sort of downhill trend. Because the thing is that streaming got its foothold with the artistic base that they did. And I'm not just saying Netflix, I'm saying all of them, by throwing crazy money at it and attracting the A-list talent and then pulling the carpet out from underneath that, right? So now budgets are half or a third of what they were. The movies like Dune, Wicked, Avatar, whatever, they're not getting greenlit for streaming. And they're also not getting greenlit by the theatrical side of the existing majors, right? So now it's fallen through the middle.
Yeah, I mean, Netflix has tried. They did a Zack Snyder movie. They've done some Russo brothers movies that are on the level of budgets that you would get for that stuff. It just hasn't really worked.
Because that's not their business.
Because it's not their business. You know, I find it striking, Marshall, that President Trump, not even 2 weeks ago, he got Rush Hour 4 going to be in production. If you like Rush Hour movies and stuff, I think they're pretty good. The first two are good. I think in some way, there is something here that Netflix is involved to make sure they can broker this and make sure they could steal the captive audience away of making those movies President Trump wants in America. I think there's something to this in some way. And I think, unfortunately, right now, you're seeing politics all thrown in this place. Now, if Ellison comes back and says, we're going to go to the board and say, all right, we'll raise it to 30. And then they turn around and say, no. See, the problem is Warner Brothers they're not seeing the bigger picture. They think they'll make more money with Netflix, okay? Because they'll gain a greater swath of adding Warner Brothers and Netflix together and stuff. But when you just heard what he's saying and stuff, a lot of the big movies that hit Netflix, they all bombed. I've watched movies on Netflix. I don't even watch Netflix. You know, I like Prime. But I can tell you right now, and think about all the people that banned or got rid of Netflix. Netflix lost a lot of people, and they continue to lose people in some way. That's part of the reason they're doing this, because they want to bring people back into the fold. Your thoughts?
Well, you know, the only thing I can really think of is that the movie theaters are going like the drive-in movie theater, in my opinion, because you go to a movie. You get rude people on their phone. They're making noise. They're doing all kinds of shit. And it's annoying. I don't even go anymore. I haven't gone in years to a movie, to an actual
that's why
movie.
they have the movie theaters where you can go and you can dine in. The dine-in movie
but then
theaters.
It costs you an arm and a leg.
Yeah, well, that's the whole point. It's very expensive.
Why did I buy a 60-inch TV with high definition, with all the great sound?
Well, that's the point. They combine dinner and a movie. The concept, even in the movie in the late 90s and early 2000s, they combine that, you know? So I understand that. What I'm saying here, I think the biggest problem is, I haven't gone to the movies in a long time either. I don't go to the movies.
Garbage, man.
Well, it's not that there's nothing good out.
$8 for one little drink.
Right. I live in Tampa. You should go out. You go out and drink. It's like $14. It's like fucking New York.
Like $20.
It's like ridiculous. I'll make my own drink at home. No, but what I'm saying is, if you want to keep the industry alive, you have to keep the theatrics alive. You know, and the only way to do it, make the movies in America, you're going to have to bring the cost down in some way to get people to come out. You know, if President Trump's like, I want to make movie theaters, I want to make movies great again, well, you got to put out good product. If you don't have good product, all right, then people aren't going to see it.
Absolutely.
And so what's going to happen is Warner Brothers will die inside of Netflix because they'll just put out base product and people will it'll go over their head. I used to have HBO Max. I don't have it anymore. I never watched it because there wasn't a lot of good stuff on there anyway. There's only certain things I watch. Tubi is free. You can watch all great movies over there. So what I'm saying is there's something to be said about this. And I think Cameron is right. Hollywood right now is dying by its own, by its own internal sword, by outsourcing to China and India and all these other companies and filming outside the United States, not inside the place. Yeah, I mean, look, the problem that Hollywood faces right now, and it's not like, we should all wish it all away. It's an American dynasty. I know it's got a lot of problems in some way, but if you put out good product, you could police the industry a lot better. And I think in some way, most people need to consider that, because if it goes away, someone else is going to slide in there like China and take over. And you want to watch Chinese movies or movies with subtitles from India? I don't want to fucking watch it. I don't watch it now. I watch less of it now. So I think in some way you have to consider this. I think this is really important, and we shouldn't just like poo-poo this.
Remember Desi Studios? That was Lucille Ball, and Desi Arnett. Desi Lou Studios. I mean, that was classic Hollywood.
Yeah. No longer exists.
Lucille
50s,
Ball
60s are over.
She was a genius, man.
Yeah.
And you
So
just
I
don't
thought
have
Carol
that
Burnett was
anymore.
pretty
It's
good too.
gone.
Carol Burnett was
another one, and all those
but
guys.
she didn't get a recognition like Lucille Ball. She
Oh
didn't get
my
a
God,
recognition
that
like
was
Lucille
awesome.
Ball. Sinatra liked her. Sinatra liked her too. And if you go back and you understand that time frame and stuff, you'll appreciate movies, especially old classics. See, the problem is if Hollywood dies, you'll never see classic movies. You'll never see them. And there was a lot of classic movies made in the 90s and early 2000s. They no longer are making movies. It's all fucking
It's
all
just,
this.
It's
all Marvel gay
just
shit.
like the
It's all-
music, like music nowadays.
Well, that's on point. Thank you, Thea, for the 500 gold pills. Great show, guys. Aloha, Mom. Surf Dog. Please have a once in a month conspiracy theory movie night. You know what? I'll consider that if you tell me what movie you want. If you guys all get together, all right, you send me email.
It's a good idea, Brett.
I have no problem with it. You let me know. You let
Once
me
a
know.
month.
Yeah, you let me know. Yeah, we'll do it on a Friday night. You
Could be
let me know.
aliens, could be weather, whatever. Yeah, I think it's cool.
You can hit me on Telegram, hit me on Truth, hit me on X. I mean, you can send me an email at wearerise@gmail.com. I mean, look, what I'm saying is if you guys want it, you guys get together, all right? And I need to see what people want. Send it to my Telegram. We Arise free. Sign up to my Telegram. Put it in there. These are the movies. Put in your own movie. And then we'll then on a show, we'll go through the process of like, here's a list of 10 movies. All right. And then you guys pick. And then the majority wins. All right. And then we could go through like, all right, well, we'll cover this next time. We'll break it down over this. All right. Federal judge unsealed Epstein grand files. All right. This was a Trump judge. Now, remember, this falls on the Transparency Act, so that means it has to go through the Justice Department, and the Justice Department will unclassify the stuff that's relevant at the time. This is part of this. So all these people on X, there you go. Where are they now? They're not crying at all. They're all away. They're all gone right now. And like I said earlier and stuff, 3 judges that blocked this are what? They were all people that weren't appointed by Trump. Biden, Obama, you name it. All right, moving on. I gotta fast track this. All right, where is this that I wanted to say? All right, this was today. So President Trump wins an award. Hold on, a FIFA award. I'll play this.
Yeah, it's good.
And please welcome the very first winner of the FIFA Peace Prize, the 45th and 47th President of the United States of America, Mr. Donald J. Trump. Please. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. And
So, I mean, that's great. This is the first award that he give out. A lot of people were critical of that, saying, hey, so he didn't get the Peace Prize, so he gets this. Well, do you think anybody cares about the Peace Prize? I mean, seriously. I mean, this FIFA, World Soccer, people are watching that. They care more about that shit.
Absolutely.
I'm not into soccer. I'm not into this. I'm not into soccer like I'm not into homosexuality, as Greg Gutfeld said. Bum. I mean, I like that line he said. That was funny. Did anybody catch that?
I like the last end of it, but not the all of it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it was funny that he said.
End of it.
No, I think it was great, but I'm not into soccer. But I'm not going to wreck it because billions of people love soccer. And you know what?
Way
so
more
be
than
it.
yeah. Way
Maybe
more than the Nobel Prize, man.
Yeah, and more than the NFL, I can tell you that right now. So, I mean, whatever. I'm okay with that. I don't really personally care. Moving on. I just want to skim through a couple
I like
of things.
the way he picked up the little medal and put it on.
Yeah, I know. It's just so fun because he wanted to show it. Look at I got. Look at my shiny new object
over here.
He's basically going this. All right. Larry Loomer puts this out. Elon Musk says a large section of Fuentes, and I've seen a lot of people on X saying this, he's being outed. Audience is coming from Middle East and Pakistan. Elon Musk is going to put all this stuff out. He said, when groypers spam you on X and say, I'm not voting for Donald Trump, remind them because they didn't vote, because they aren't Americans and they live in theocracies, Islamic theocracies. A large section of Fuentes audience. Wow. Yep. Unlike who's owned by Zeiss. And so here you go. He's a Fed. So this is all out there. He's putting out there, and people are like, well, why did you allow him back on? To expose him. You had Milo, who was on Tucker, saying that he's a Fed. You have a lot of people coming out now going after him. He was just on not Joe Rogan. He was on, he's just on some the podcast. I can't think of his name. He was just on there in an interview, and they're all calling him a Fed now. And look, you know what? He's got some good points, but look, this is a guy who says, I didn't vote for Trump in 24. I'm not going to vote for him again. I mean, I understand what he says about Vance and a lot of people. You heard Kirk's wife, Erica Kirk, coming back and walking back about J.D. Vance. And then she turns around and says what? She says, I think we got to focus on what we have now and enjoy this presidency. You think, and stop getting ahead of yourselves about who's going to be 2028. Can we just fucking enjoy this presidency? Whether you like it or not, can we just enjoy it? Or do you want to go back 4 years ago? Can we put everybody back in the time warp and do the time warp dance? Go back and live in that time. All right? I mean, I'm so sick and tired of fucking people bitching. Just enjoy this moment. Because when it's gone, it's over. Oh, all right, moving on.
He's not wrong.
Who?
You know, Fuentes isn't wrong a lot of shit.
About what?
You know, what am I going to call everybody a Fed? Oh, Brett, you're a Fed. I mean,
well, no, Elon Musk is saying that a lot of his people that they call come from overseas.
You look at Erica Kirk, she's got connection with all kinds of shit.
I'm not defending her either. I'm not defending her. We'll get to the last
It is what
part.
it is.
Right. I mean,
it is what it is.
Yeah. I mean, he's playing both sides, devil's advocate. But again, another influencing spear that likes to divide and conquer. That's my point. ChatGPT encouraged a violent stalker, court documents alleged. So you got ChatGPT. Here we go. A 31-year-old Brett Michael Dedang was indicted on federal grand jury charges for cyber stalking, interstate threats. The DOJ announced he stalked and harassed more than 10 women by weaponizing modern technology and crossing state lines. I'm not going to read the rest of it. I just want you to know that we are in a world of hurt when it comes to AI and everything else that's out there, that these things are going to be weaponized against us, whether we have control of it or not. What's up, T7? 100% behind Netflix move. Get rid of Hollywood. Okay, so you are for that. And it's actors. It's evil, and these people get paid way too much. A lot more people are watching Netflix. Okay, but do you understand who is on the production? Do you understand who the producers are at Netflix that sit on the board? Why don't you, T7, go look at who sits on the board of Netflix?
All the garbage that they put out.
The Obamas, okay? And many other dark figures. Reed Hoffman is on there. So you want to say that you're behind Netflix. Netflix is a very ominous organization that puts out maybe predictive programming, a lot of stuff that
all kinds
Brett
of child
Stream Climate Trails on Prime. Brett Stream Climate Trails on Prime. Okay. I all right, I'll go watch that. Climate. I mean, I don't know what that is, but
I think we
I
should
know
play High Plains Drifter.
Yeah, I mean, well, I watch old. You know, the one thing I like about Prime, I can watch old movies.
Absolutely.
I can watch old movies. I can war movies, westerns, shit like that. I can watch good horror movies on AMC. Yeah. Hell, there's a lot of stuff I can watch. I'm not a big fan of Netflix. I'm not going to poo-poo it and what you're saying. What I'm saying is that for them to take over Warner Brothers in this way, they will create a monopoly. And you know who's even saying that? Pocahontas is coming out screaming, oh, it's not getting through the Senate. Not getting through the Senate. We can't allow that. So, I mean, look, is there an argument to be made that you still want Hollywood, or you want it to go by the wayside and just let it go and all these people will be out of work and real talent doesn't aspire and stuff. They're all going to be gone anyway. I understand. I get what you're saying. But what are you going to do? You're going to move him from the big theatrical stuff to Netflix and all this stuff. I mean, all these big movies that were on Netflix or Prime or all these places that came out, they were garbage. Soylent Green is probably relative now. Yeah.
Soylent Green, man. Oh,
Good movie.
shit. Oh,
Charlton
man.
Heston.
Charlton
You know what
Heston.
Charlton Heston's best movie was?
Planet of the Apes is not. I'm sorry. go
Well,
ahead.
obviously. Well, that's a documentary. If you haven't seen Planet of the Apes,
That
it's
is
a documentary.
Yeah.
It's a documentary. And
Look at
actually,
the
the
Somalis
series over
now.
time was a documentary when they came back in time and they actually met the people, the progenitors who they were humans. But the bottom line is they were. Yeah, they live as a documentary too.
Yeah, Planet of the Apes was a Somalian deal.
Okay, here we go. This is going to be a battle, but I'm going to play this before we dip out.
They live.
Because I don't want to get into too much of this.
All right.
A liar and a coward. Candace Owens roasted for ducking event of Charlie Kirk's assassination. He's facing significant scrutiny after she indicated she would not attend in-person event geared toward addressing the conspiracy theories she has promoted about the assassination of Kirk. So you have the conspiracy theorists versus the machine. That's what TPUSA is now. On Wednesday, the Kirk show, Blake Neff tore into Owens over her amplification of lies, innuendos thrown around with a total reckless disregard for the truth. You had people call up on TPUSA saying, why can't she do it virtually? I mean, and saying, if you're going to walk away from this, why won't you do it virtually? I'm just going to say right now. All right, she should never agree to doing this, number one. She should have said, hey, if you want to do it virtually, that's fine. But if they're going to work out some type of synopsis or some deal that's going to be financially feasible for both of them, because it's going to rein in profits, if it's going to be behind a paywall grift, I'm not watching it. As far as I'm concerned, and I'll say this objectively, I have my doubts about TPUSA, how they handled Charlie Kirk's murder, his let's just say his first degree murder, his assassination, the plot to kill him. Yeah, they handled it poorly. All right. And they left a lot more open questions than answers. As for her, she's gone off such of the deep end. She has not proven any of her stuff to be real or not. But yet the percentage on X and other places that 90% side with her over TPUSA. I can understand that because she's there putting stuff out there, whether it's behind a paywall or not, whether you believe it's a grift or a graft, whether you believe it or not, doesn't matter. But she has such a big audience that a lot of people are saying right now, whereas TPUSA has dropped to about 98 in the ratings ever since Charlie's death, murder, that I think in some way she's filling a void, a vacuous state that these guys are not being able to fill. And there are many people that are continuing to push back and say, look, you need to do this. Don't be a pussy. Don't be a wimp and stuff in some way. Look, I understand what this is all kind of weird, how you didn't email me or call me to ask about times availability. Choose instead, tweet the information. We'll also add that I'm happy to jump to Charlie's show the day before virtually. I am serious when I said we could do it even today. Virtually, I can make it happen pretty much any day because it's easy to move things around with kids. Okay. But then she should have said that in the beginning instead of saying automatically, I agree to your terms. Given Owens' previous declaration that Neff and his colleagues could pick the place, pick the time for event, observers were less impressed by her response. Okay, so you got a lot of people. Here we go. This is exactly what she did when Ben Shapiro challenged her to sit down with the discussion. Okay. You had Addison Smith say, can you pick the place, then pick the time? And I said, we do it tomorrow. We don't need to plan this. Okay. Fuentes says you're invited to TPUSA headquarters to press their leadership live in person about their role in Charlie Kirk's murder, but you can't go because you were scheduling conflict. Yeah. Isn't this what you've been pushing since September? Yeah. I mean, he's right. I mean, you wanted this. Richard Barris comes out. They invited you to participate. They didn't say that would make it to Candace Owens' show and work around your schedule. These are your allegations. It's incumbent on you to make the schedule work. I think so. In response to them in a positive view, they should, in some way, say, hey, look, let's just do it virtually. And she should now give in to this because she set this all up. You literally said they could pick time and place. Blah, blah, blah. Liar and a coward. All right, so you can understand what this is. A lot of people are, in between about this evidence. She's not an actual journalist. She doesn't actually believe the nonsense, the shit she's spewing. There's a lot of people that have very different viewpoints. They're angry about this. They don't like her. They think she's she hides behind a paywall. She started this media firestorm. She's put this stuff out. She's created all this stuff. Again, TPUSA has its failed, miserable responses and retorts regarding Charlie's, from the time of Charlie's death all the way through. And it never ends with Erica Kirk and everything else. It seems phony. It seems contrived, especially with the memorial service, everything that happened. So it's embarrassing. And it's no wonder they've dropped. And is it hurt Charlie's name in some way? I don't think so. I think Charlie Kirk, it was bigger than TPUSA. Okay? He wasn't just TPUSA. He was Charlie Kirk, who ran TPUSA, who made TPUSA what it was. And in his absence, you could see that there's nobody that could fill the role. Not even Candace Owens, who's out there saying these guys are lying. All I'm saying is about how I feel about this. I'll wait for January 20th when we find out a pretrial information and motions with discovery and everything else. But I still don't believe the narrative. I believe they're holding back evidence. Whatever. Again, I'm not going to change my viewpoint. I never believed that guy killed Charlie Kirk, but that's just me. I'm objectively stating right now, these two should get together and hash it out, and that's it. If she doesn't do it, then she does look like a coward, and then she's basically everything that she's put on her reputational line, whatever that line is, going up against the machine, all right, really hurts her credibility, even though her credibility's all the way out there, deep out there, Marshall.
After what happened to Charlie Kirk, I do not blame her for not wanting to.
Well,
go
then say that. Then say that.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame. Look, she probably jumped the gun. Look, we're human beings. She probably jumped the gun and said anytime, any place, off the bat, off the rip. She said that. Okay, she fucked up on that one.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give her. I'm gonna give her a pass on that.
Yeah.
If it were me, I'm not gonna go in after this guy got murdered, shot in the neck.
Yeah.
And go into their studio with 5 of them sitting there against one of me.
Right.
No, that ain't happening. I don't trust these people at TPUSA any more than I trust the people that run them now. Okay? Yeah. And you can figure out who runs them now. That's what I believe.
Well, there's no doubt about it when she's saying that she's getting death threats with all this stuff and everything that happened with Macron and all these things. But, you know, look, I'm not saying it's here or there. I'm sure she does get death threats. I'm sure there's a whole lot of nonsensical behavior and chatter that's out there per se. I'm not going to whatever, but I think in some way, then just do it virtually. I mean, just say, hey, look, I got kids. I got to protect myself. I don't feel comfortable going there. I mean, come out there and say it. I mean, you're saying everything else under the sun about and implicating and accusing TPUSA of having Kirk murdered or being complicit in his murder in some way. Fair. You want to do that and you want to back it up, then go on the show. Then go on the show virtually and do it. And then have the biggest audience ever. Have 50 million people watching you. I mean, that's what you want to do.
Why isn't TPUSA suing her for defamation then? If
well,
she's
it makes
lying,
sense. I know
if
people
she's
say,
lying, why aren't they suing her?
Right.
I mean, come on.
Because
man.
I think in some way, they think in some way that they will be exonerated based upon the evidence that's going to come out from the discovery through the trial of Tyler Robinson. And so they feel no need to put forth anything that would actually in some way hurt the trial or hinder the trial. And again, this is the supposition. You heard Kash Patel go on Megyn Kelly and say, look, are you completely convinced that he did it? He goes, yes. But he goes, the state Utah police are the ones investigating and are in charge of a state crime. All right. And that's it. So it is what it is. It doesn't matter what we believe. It doesn't matter what we can even prove, Marshall. The point is and stuff, at this point, you got a case coming up on the 20th. And the last thing you want to do in some way, whether this is the guy or not, you need to prove this or he walks. And if they can't prove their case, then everything that Candace Owens is saying is going to look bigger and bigger, and it's going to loom everywhere. And people are going to have egg on their face for attacking her. And TPUSA might have some questions to ask. Now, I'm not implying that one way or another. I'm not implying they were involved or not. I don't know. It's very suspicious. The video footage is, again, very engineered the way we're perceived to understand it and see it. And I don't know what this evidence is. According to Kash Patel, they know this for a fact. Do you trust Kash Patel in telling the truth? And they're still saying it's an ongoing investigation.
I think are holding back for a reason.
Well, who's holding back for a reason?
Cash and the whole.
Well, of course they're
that
holding
art
back for a
stuff.
reason. What do you think that is?
Because it's a big deal, man. I mean,
I don't think the lone gunman theory. I'm not buying the lone gunman theory.
I'm not buying that one, but we never have, Brett.
Yeah, and I'm not going to buy the
and
Patsy
nobody
theory
else
either.
is online. You look online, nobody buys it.
Right,
A
right.
30-06 would have.
Yeah, and I
off
don't
his
believe
head.
Israel was involved.
These-
I'll say that for a fact. I don't believe Israel was involved. I do believe that there is
Our
some type
inside
of
people.
Yeah, I think there is something else inside that helped facilitate this. This is bigger than we can understand, and they wanted him dead in some way. And that's all I'll say. And look, the case is going to come out. Discovery is going to come out, and you know what? They might as well do this now before January, because January is going to be too late to have this discussion while the pretrial motions are going to go on, and we're going to start to see discovery, and we're going to start to go through the evidence and everything, and footages and all this stuff, and the trial starts. I think it's, do it now or don't do it at all, and then shut the fuck up about it. That's my attitude about it, and then say, hey, look, I'm scared for my life. You know what? If you want to be a big person because you got a big mouth, Candace, then just say, I'm scared for my life and I feel uncomfortable going to your event where my friend Charlie Kirk was murdered. I think that's a fair assessment to say. I think people will understand it. But the bottom line is she needs to say it. And she needs to say, hey, look, I'm either going to do this or not. But in the end, it goes to her court, falls into her court because she's the one accusing them. That's the way I say it.
Yeah,
they want to say, hey, look, we want to defend ourselves. I think it's a fair,
Yeah, she should just say, look, let's just do it virtually. I don't feel comfortable. Like you said, I want to do it like this. It's the same thing like we're doing right now, Brett. Me and you are talking. I'm over here. You're in Tampa. It's the same thing. What's the problem? She doesn't have to sit in their seat, be in their studio, travel over there. Who knows what could happen? I wouldn't do it. Yeah, I wouldn't do it, Brett.
No, I agree. I agree. And it probably it dawned on her.
Especially after Charlie Kirk. Man.
Yeah.
Fuck that, man.
Oh, don't worry. We'll provide security for you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, no, thanks.
Yeah.
Pass.
I mean,
we'll
like I
provide
said, I know there are some
security
people
for
with
you.
some
Bang,
serious
bang, bang.
people have some serious overtures about this, about all this stuff. And at this point, I really don't care anymore about Candace or TPUSA. I don't watch them. I mean, Charlie Kirk is gone, and there's no point of watching them. I don't like any of them on there. I don't care to hear about their blather, and I don't listen to Candace Owens and her conspiracy theories. I don't even have time. There are too many big things to worry about than this infighting. Let the trial play out and see where the chips roll, and that's where everybody should be. Yeah. All right, that's our show. Have a good night. All right, we'll return on Monday. I'll see you guys soon. Yeah, Erica can't fill his shoes. No, she's too busy crying with fake tears. All right, guys. Take care. Good night. Have a great weekend. Ciao.
Good night.